Hi guys, welcome back. This one, this particular video isn't actually going to be a flight sim video. Well, it is, but we're not actually flying. I got the microphone out, as you can see, doing it properly. This next flight that I'm going to do is, believe it or not, going to be the 1000th flight for my virtual airline. I fly for a online site called AirSource, and there are many VAs out there, virtual airlines, and so for instance I could fly for British Airways Virtual, and they run things very much as the real world counterparts do. It's very, very, very well, it's exact. It's almost a carbon copy, except you're flying aircraft in real life. And as I alluded to in my first video, the departure, I don't necessarily always want to do things exactly as they're done in the real world. This is my aviation world. I can do things differently. Back in 2000 back in 2000 I think it was, maybe even 2001, as I stumbled around the internet on my dial-up modem trying to find things to do with flight sim as I was getting into it, I stumbled across a company called Gatwick Air Taxis, and they were offering a thing where you flew out of Gatwick. They had little schedules, and you could pick and choose what you wanted to do. Very soon after that, the guy that was running it, Vince, it just became too much for him, I guess, and he amalgamated with a company called AirSource. And the AirSource is based, the founder and the president, I think he's president, is Tom. Hey Tom, and he's been running the company ever since. Since he started it back in 2000, I suppose, and even now, 16 years later, it's still going. People have come and gone, and what I like about AirSource, labelled a virtual pilot union, is rather than being this is our airline and this is what we do, there are tons and tons of people that are part of the airline that input schedules, and so there are schedules from all the carriers all over the globe that are available. So it doesn't matter whether today you fly a jet, tomorrow you fly a propeller, the next day you can be in an A380, the biggest passenger jet there is, and then the next day you're in a 50-seat prop, bimbling around the Canadian tundra. And that's what's great about it. It really does just open you up for flying what you want to fly, and not what, a uniformed, this is how you do things. So it's great. It gives you flexibility. It gives you chance to find schedules, maybe flying flights that you wouldn't fly at. Because I'm very linear, I always, wherever I land, that's where I have to take off from. So, and I dot myself around. We move around the globe. There has been instances over the years where I may jump from one to the other if I get stuck, or if I had like 3 months off and I decide I want to start flying from here for whatever reason. So I'm just going to run you through, given this is my 1000th flight, I'm going to run you through exactly what we do to basically get a flight off the ground. So this is the, let's go to the main page. This is the AirSource main page. Obviously, I'm logged in at the moment. These are people that are currently flying. We have got our own ACARS system, which is the Aircraft Communication Addressing Reporting System. So that actually feeds the information straight out of... there's Norm Edwards. Let's have a look, see what Norm's up to. Brutal. Didn't work. That's like the first time I've ever seen that happen. Here we go. So here's Mr. Ralph Walker. And he right now is flying straight across the United States. That's what his jet's up to. Is at 36,000 feet. And so he's flying his flight simulator, and that information is feeding straight back to AirSource HQ. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to pilot operations. This is exactly how I do things. I go to AirSource flights. Now, I've actually done this previously just to make sure, almost like a bit of a rehearsal. So this is the bread and butter of where I go for all my flights. This is how it works. I can either search by airline and aircraft, or as I am today, I'm going to search by departure airfield. So I know I'm flying out of Frankfurt. I actually know what route I'm doing, but yeah. So the flight we're going to do is going to be extremely short, because of the fact it's takeoff and landing all in one. And so I'll select that I want to go 200 nautical miles, and let's see what comes up. So these are all the flights that come up. As you can see, Pan Am, there's classic flights in there. Lufthansa Cargo, there's Lufthansa flights. KLM off to Schiphol, with an Embraer, Airbus 319, 21, a 727, a classic. Lufthansa off to Zurich. You know, there are tons and tons and tons of flights from all different eras, 747-200s in a classic Singapore Airlines. And the whole thing is listed in time order, time of departure, being local time of departure. So the flight I'm looking for departs at, he says, got to find it now. There it is, 737-300 to Stuttgart. So it's the Lufthansa 124. I add it to my plan book. So these are the plans. These are the flights that I've already selected that I'm going to fly. And what's great about this is, although this says a 737-300, I don't have a 737-300, but because of the flexibility of air source, I can fly an aircraft that is as similar to it as I can get. Now I have a 737-700 and an 800. It's the 800 I have painted, so that's what I'm flying. But if I didn't have one of those, but I had an Airbus, the guys at Air Source are so relaxed in how things happen. If I want to use my Airbus to fly my 737 route, help yourself, man, as long as you're enjoying the fact that you're flying. And that's what's so great about it. So once we know that's what we're going to do, we're going to fire up the weather program. This is Active Sky Next. I hope that's not as loud in your ears as it is in mine. And what this is doing right now is this is downloading the latest weather file for the whole world. It's a text file. Most airports update their weather every half an hour at 20 or at 50, known as the 20s or the 50s. And Active Sky Next take that data, they put it into a text file that downloads to my computer, that injects itself into my flight simulator. So we've now got the weather, the latest weather conditions for around the globe, and we're now then going to switch over to my flight planning system. Oh, look, I've already done that. Yep, take that out. So I should have done that before we came on air. So we know that we are going to fly. We're going to fly a flight. So this is what we're going to do. This is the flight planning system, and this is what I used to do when I used to work for airlines, was flight planning. So hopefully I won't get this wrong. So we are going to fly FM. Yeah, being FMX, FlyManx. And this is the 124. So because of the fact we're flying for Lufthansa, what have I done wrong? Look at this. It's because I've set up the call sign recently in because I set the call sign up in here like the other day when I was practicing, just to see if it recorded and stuff, because I haven't actually recorded desktop stuff before. So FM le. God, it's painful, right? Le. Oh, how many L's are there? Look, everyone's flying this, flying that. FMX, look. FlyManx Airlines, flight number 124, because that's the German one, going from EDDF, which is Frankfurt, to EDDS, which is Stuttgart. The reason why it's designated as EDDF is because all the airports around the globe have been given a 4-letter and as well as a 3-letter designator. Air traffic control use 4-letter designators, and with Europe, Europe's split into two parts. You have the northern part of Europe and the southern part of Europe. Any airports that are in the northern part of Europe, their 4-letter airport code starts with an E. The next letter then signifies what country they are. Sometimes the country they are do not match up with their codes, but this time around it does. So ED, because Germany is deemed in the aviation world to be in the northern part of Europe. Germany, and then just, I'm not sure what the third D stands for. The Germans have designated it that way. And then you've got the F for Frankfurt, the S for Stuttgart. England, for instance, the United Kingdom, for instance, is EG. And those airfields are then designated different codes depending on where they are. They're grouped together. So the stuff up the north is EGN. The stuff down the bottom is, the big ones are all double letters. So I'm really digging stuff out here that I've not talked about for years. And then you've got like EH for the Netherlands, EN for Norway. You go down south and go to Southern Europe, they start with an L. So you've got, and for whatever reason, France has become part of Southern Europe. So you've got LF, LE, LI for France, Italy, Spain, and it, so on and so forth. I don't know them all. I did once upon a time. Well, at least the ones we used to fly to. So anyway, tonight we're going to fly this one away. This one's actually going to go. It's 7 o'clock at the moment, but we're going to fly this one away at let's go for Zulu time, 21:30 Z. Zulu time is GMT, so it's 1 hour behind current local time in the United Kingdom because we're at British summertime. The registration today, we're going to take the 737-800, which is Oscar Bravo Whiskey Sierra. The M stands for Isle of Man, actually. All aircraft registered in the Isle of Man start with an M. And Oscar Bravo Whiskey Sierra was actually a 757 for the first airline that I work for. So, yep, take Whiskey Sierra. I'm going to take a random payload. So we're literally going to save that. Let's go pop it down here. Let's go pop it down there. And all we have to do then is actually plan for the flight. So, excuse me, can't do that. You can get rid of that on podcasting. Can't do that on a live video. So, we're not touch anything with the flight information. We're going to leave the aircraft information alone as well. Payload today has already been automatically inputted for us. The figure I'm actually interested in, doesn't matter what this bit really says, is the 0 fuel weight. That's for another video. The fuel, I leave that as is. EU ops costs, I touch nothing with it. Now the route, I could push find and let it do it for me, but I don't do that very often. I like to create my own route. I also like to try and create the route based off of what's going on around the world. Now, as you can see, this actually is a very short flight. It's 90 miles. And what you'll find quite often, especially with the longer routes, is I'll go to this place called Flight Radar 24. And so as you can see, there's all the aircraft that are live right now flying around Frankfurt. So I'm going to find Stuttgart. I'm sure you're saying, there it is. So I'm going to find Stuttgart and then find a flight that happened earlier today, or that's going to happen. It's going to go from, so we want arrivals. Where's the arrivals button? There it is. Well, there's the arrivals page. Okay, so we want a flight from Frankfurt to earlier. No earlier flights, look. Let's find an earlier flight that went from Frankfurt. God, there aren't any. I can't believe no one flew from Frankfurt to... There's one. So it's flight 132. Still on the 737-300. Interesting. So this is literally the information for today's flight. And all I'm interested in is actually where the aircraft flew. So as you can see, it went to Mannheim and then went south-east and came in on the... That's going to be like 25, isn't it? So that's going to be the westerly runway. It's not matched up. There's 25. Okay, so the bit I'm actually interested in is how high did it climb? So as you can see, that literally went as high as 15,000 feet. So what we're going to do now, back to flight planning software, is we choose our runway. Now, I have not even bothered to check the weather. How bad is that? And that happens quite a lot with me. I don't check. So I'm interested in the weather. The weather currently is 280 at 2 knots. So we'll just take 25 Charlie, which will be the runway that I landed on the other day from Frankfurt. And I didn't know it did this until I was doing the testing. But the latest update that I took, when you choose a SID, which is a standard instrument departure, it actually highlights where they fly to. So we're going to take the RID departure. And what that does is you tell the aircraft you're doing a RID departure from 25 Charlie, and it plots the route. And what's happened is all the airports around the world have come up, well, not all of them, a lot of the important ones have come up with these standard things and routes that you must fly to deal with noise abatement and levels and profiles, and take account into like traffic patterns and all these different things. So anyway, we're going to go to there. And then we are going to, now, herein lies the thing. We're going to look at the arrival first because it is so short. I think that's the first thing we should do. And there's a Tajik arrival. So as you can see, from Reed to Tajik really isn't that much of a big route at all. What we could do is come down here. See this Upper Lima 607. Although actually, having said that, it's Germany. And Germany's flight level 240, I think. Anything above 245 is deemed an upper airspace, and anything below 245 is lower airspace. So we should, technically speaking, be in the lower airspace. So we're going to go from RID, and I'm just going to literally go direct. Back in the old days, we used to have a joke. Oh, doing that wrong, look. Back in the old days, we used to have a joke about going direct, 3,000 feet. So I'm going to select RID, as that's where we're going. That's our first point on the flight plan. We're going to go to UMDAS, just direct. And then we're going to go to Tajik. I'm going to put the Tajik arrival in. There it is. And there's the arrival into 25. Now it's already selected runway 25 because it's the preferred runway based on the winds in Stuttgart, 230 at 5 knots. That really isn't very much at all. We should note that thunderstorms and rain may be temporarily hanging around later on this evening, but I'll probably be long gone before that actually happens. So that's done. That's the flight plan we're going to fly. We're going to apply that to our flight planning information, so that goes in. That's our flight plan string. And then we need an alternate. Now, with regards to alternates, you usually use an aircraft that's nearby. And if we find, and it will search and give us a list of all the close airports with distances there, nice and close. You got Baden-Baden, which isn't too far away, with a 9,000 foot runway that we could use. Operationally speaking, if my aircraft flew to Stuttgart and couldn't land in Stuttgart and then went to Baden-Baden, that's the next flight from Stuttgart to Frankfurt delayed massively, as well as the next flight out of Frankfurt that airframe were doing. So from an operational point of view, I'd actually take the aircraft back to Frankfurt, because although you'd have those two flights that you'd probably cancel with such a busy traffic route with Frankfurt and Stuttgart, I could still protect the next flight that went off to, say, like Madrid or to Rome or somewhere else like that. So I'm actually going back to Frankfurt because it's only 84 miles away, and we can just put the passengers on the next flight. So we're not going to go direct, however. And in fact, if I hit the find, just so you can see it, look at that for just a dog's breakfast of a route, 147 miles around the houses for an 85-mile flight. So I think we're going to clear that. We're going to edit it, because we can do better than that, I know. So I want a departure. Let's take that one, Etassa. Etassa? I don't know. To the north. We'll go low-level routes again. Now, I know that there's one at PSA. Where's the points? There's some points. There's some navaids. And I want the arrival from PSA. PSA's all the way out there. Huh. I thought it was over here. Never mind. We still want that one because it's the only one that's available. So as you can see, much tidier. Much tidier. So we'll apply that. That's now... is it me, or has that actually gone further? That's hilarious, right? These are just the quirks of flight planning. Nothing ever seems to go the way you expect it to. There we go, 126. So I've saved us some fuel. Probably won't happen anyway, but I mean, we're never going to divert. There's nothing going to happen that means we divert. So everything's done now. All the information's inputted. So we're going to compute the flight. That's going to spit us out an actual flight plan. This is very much similar to what they use in the real world. So it just gives you the information of where you're going from, where you're going to. Your flight level, interesting enough, that says 170, because I never told the flight planning software that I wanted to have a maximum altitude of 15,000 feet. So we'll just pop that in there and recompute. So as you can see, the difference between the two, this one, there's actually not very much at all. You're actually in the cruise for, I'd imagine, for a lot less time. As you can see, you're going to actually burn. Oh, where's the burn? There it is. What's that? An extra 12 kilos more by staying down at 15,000 feet. So we'll just keep it at 15,000 feet. We're going to release that flight plan, and here's the flight plan. So 150. Here's the weights that we're going to need to set the aircraft up, and this is the fuel. So we're looking to take 3.6 tons, or what's that, like 6,800 thousand pounds? No, thousand? No. 6,800 pounds is all we're going to take. But being in Europe and being in kilos and being a kilos guy, I'll just take 3.6 tons. So there's our flight plan as it would be written down with the points that we're flying to. And obviously, if you've got to fly like for 15 hours, this thing here is huge with the airways of the skies. So, and there's some handy wind information down there at the bottom. So the next thing we would do, well actually, our next thing I would generally do is load up the flight simulator But I'm not going to do that today. I'm actually going to send the information straight to my takeoff and performance calculator. For whatever reason, since an update, it tries to tell me that it doesn't work anymore. But it does. It just means the weights don't go across. So we've got Mike Oscar Bravo Whiskey Sierra. It's a 737-800. We're going to update the weather from Frankfurt. So that's gone in now, the 1750Z. So that was approximately 28 minutes ago. We're taking 25 Charlie. There's the temperature. QNH, you'd have heard me talk about that on the other day. On the other one, the weather source is Active Sky that we're using now. The takeoff weight today is 59,166. So we just pop that in, 59,166. I like to use takeoff 5 as my standard and not flaps 1. We leave the thrust config as optimum. Air conditioning will be on unless we actually have a very short runway. We'll turn it off for some extra performance. And it's nice and warm. It's 21 degrees, so we do not need any icing issues. We literally just hit compute. So it thinks about it and it spits this out. So you're probably thinking, well, okay, that's good. What are all those numbers meaning? This is based on a takeoff weight of 69 tons. There's like tables, degrees of information. So if you fit within the boundary, this is the performance file that you're going to use. So it's a flap 5 takeoff with a takeoff 2. The aircraft has different ratings for the engines. If you was to, for instance, just fly around all the time, maximum power, using the maximum output all the time, your engine will actually die and, mechanically break down a lot sooner unless you edge it off. So like your car when you're driving, you won't gas it everywhere and rev the engine because you know you'll blow stuff up. So it's the same with an aircraft. If you don't need all the power, why use it? So you do what's called derating the engine. So you tell the engines, actually today you've only got this much power. So and it will do that. Other things you can do is tell it what temperature is, and that just helps you to just really reduce the power down and only use what you need. Now, as you can see, Frankfurt's runway is like 4,000 meters. I think that equates to 13.5 to 14,000 feet. This is a massive runway we've got here, and we've already got is a 737. So we're going to use next to none, really. So we're going to tell the aircraft it's 45 degrees outside, and here are our takeoff speeds. So V1, which is the point of no return. Once you hit V1, you keep going. VR is 135. That's the point of rotation, so it's 135 knots. And V2 is 139. I've been told many times what V2 is, and my mind has just gone blank. So rather than try and bullshit my way through it, excuse my French, sorry, I will just... V2 is the speed that we're going to hold on departure. And then we've actually got a margin of half the runway. Our M1, which is our percentage speed of the engines, is 89.1. I can't believe all of a sudden my mind has gone blank on what exactly V2 is. I know, though, that V2 is the speed we're holding as we're climbing away. That initial bit, before when you take off and they reduce the engines, well, until you get to that point where they're reducing the engines, you're holding the V2 speed. Or, depending on the airline, some will say V2 plus 20 knots. So, but today we're going to hold 139, and then the aircraft will do the rest. So, as you can see, here's all the climb information. The actual, we climb at performance limited, so it's the actual climbing away. That's the thing at that weight. So that's what's restricting us. If we was at a short airfield, let's just say, for instance, we're in the Isle of Man, using these weights, we're actually field restricted. So as you can see, you have 6 meters of margin on the same conditions because of the fact that the Isle of Man runway is half the length of that at Frankfurt. Okay, so there you go, done. Is there anything else I can do for you before we head off into... No, not really. That's pretty much what I would take in. I'd probably load up my charts. And so this is the airport information. These days on aircraft it's electronic, so they might have an iPad or an actual screen dedicated to the stuff. You tell it the 4-letter code, and this is supplied by Navigraph. It's a subscription-based service, and I mean, it probably looks quite daunting to a lot of people that have never seen this kind of thing before. But this is an actual map of Frankfurt, and this is what you use to navigate around. So they'll be told, when they land, okay, taxi to stand Alpha 5 via Lima 15, November 11, November 8. And then that's the way they go. When we're talking to departures, as you can see here, this is just a random one that's selected. These lines are actually the routes that you fly. And so when they see this as BIBT to Lima, the crew put that into the flight plan, into their flight management computer. We're going to fly a BIBT to Lima departure. And the aircraft literally will adhere to the altitude limits. It will turn when it's supposed to turn, and it will climb when it's supposed to climb, and will fly the departure, and then you can flight plan from that point. So that's how that works. So we'll just have that up ready to go. The last thing I'm going to bring up is the ACARS System 4 air source, the virtual airline. And as you can see, there's our flight today. And we would, when we're ready at the appropriate point, we'd fly selected, hit the fly selected flight button. That would be it would then put it into the mode that's pre-recording. Then you say, right, okay, I'm ready to go now, just before you start the engines, and then it would record and then transfer that information to site. And then when you're finished, it uploads it to the site and gives you your logbook. Speaking of which, I'll just show you that very, very quickly. Show you my logbook. Oh, do you know what? They must be doing some updates today. I did see a thing earlier saying we might be doing it. So we shall leave that for now and cover that in the end of the next video, I guess. Apart from that, thank you very much. Next time I see you will be on the flight deck of the 737, getting ready to prepare to Stuttgart. Thank you very much. My name's Liam, and you have been watching the Flymanx Flight Sim videos. Thank you.